Hey there, friends, and welcome to Slappy Speaks, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the Goosebumps movies with me, Avery Jones, the performer behind, beside, and occasionally beneath Slappy the Dummy. Welcome back to our sequel. Episode 2 is always the hardest for me. There's challenges to number 1, to getting started and getting over the hurdle, but number 2 is extra tricky because you got to keep the ball rolling, you know. So it's still busy time of year for me. So I'm not able to treat this as my full-time job yet. So these episodes are going to be a little smaller than even I want them to be, but I'm working on putting together some fuller length episodes, if that's a word, in the near future. I'm looking down the line. We've got some good stuff for you. I promise. Today we're going to dive into the first step in my process of working on the film. But before that, a little bit of housekeeping. We've made it through Halloween officially now, and I've appreciated all of the Goosebumps and Slappy costumes that you guys have sent me. I'm not going to share them here because I think a lot of the people that sent them are minors, so I'm not going to share them online, but I've seen them. I appreciate all of the love for Goosebumps and for Slappy. We went very easy on Halloween this year. We did a Lady and the Tramp, but almost a Disney-bound Lady and the Tramp with just some cool costume pieces that happen to be the right colors for the characters. No spaghetti or dog tails involved. Thank you for coming back if you are returning for our second episode. I see all the problems. You know, I've got some sinus stuff going on, so I know I sniffled a lot in the last episode. I'm doing my very best not to do that for you this time. And we're just trying to figure out the best way to put an episode together. We're learning together. We're putting a lot of there's a learning curve on this, so we're putting a lot of time and effort into working on this together. You and me, and you could bring me a coffee or something if you don't mind. I'm just kidding. I don't drink coffee. Today we're going to dive into the first step in my Goosebumps journey, and that is the audition for the Goosebumps movie. But first, it's time for a question from the wide world of the internet. It's time for
Ask a Dummy!
We got a question here from my pal, the Goosebumps Bro. Go check out his channel on all of the socials if you don't already follow him, about the Slappy puppet and if they built it for my hand or did I just have to work with what they had. So when I arrived for my audition, they had something like this guy waiting for me. He had the moving eyebrows and the moving eyes and things, but there was not a finished Slappy puppet for me at that point. The next times I did my screen tests or callbacks or whatever you want to call them, they had rented a very expensive, beautiful puppet from a figure maker. But Slappy himself did not exist, and I didn't get to work with Slappy until filming actually had already started on the movie, and he was delivered to the set by people from the studio that built him. And yes, he was built for my hands. I went to Detroit and worked with a gentleman by the name of Tim Selberg, who did all the mechanics in Slappy's head, and the controls were configured exactly for my hands. And that weird arrangement of the way Slappy works, where some controls are over here and some controls over here, was for me because of the way the puppets worked in the audition, and people saw that it was kind of tricky to quickly learn how to control everything with one hand here, so we kind of split it up, so it was more of I don't know, like maybe more like driving stick shift in a car situation, perhaps. But yes, he was built for my hands, and that's why if you see him operated by anyone else in the marketing, in the little bit of marketing that other people did for the movies, it's not quite the same. Thanks for your question. If you have questions about the film, or about Slappy, about life in general, make sure to leave them in the comments on this video, and we'll see if they end up on an episode of the show. Now it's back to our regularly scheduled program, already in progress.
Hey there, fellow Goosebumpers! Bumpy the Goose here, the biggest Goosebumps fan in all of the world. Now, it seems like some of you don't believe that I am as much of a fan as I claim to be. But I am, in fact, a fan through and through, and to prove it to you today, I, as a fan, will now recite all of the Goosebumps book titles in order. Could a fake fan do that? And so now I present to you all of the Goosebumps book titles in order to prove to you that I am in fact a true blue goose.
Number 1, Welcome to Dead House. Number 2, Stay Out of the Basement. Number 3, Monster Blood. Number 4, Say Cheese and Perish Quickly. Number 6.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Thank you. Oh, that was so embarrassing.
Thank you for that, Bumpy. Now we are going to get into the things that you guys are actually here for, and that is my experience working on the film. And the first step in that for me is the audition. And I've said it many times. A friend of a friend of a friend sent me a Facebook message about the auditions, and I did some digging on Instagram on my Messenger, and I found the message. So Miss Martha, who I doubt is watching this, I still owe you a debt of gratitude for sending this my way. This was the first I'd ever heard of this, and then we moved to a film studio in Conyers, Georgia, where I had my first audition. Now, if the name Conyers sounds familiar to you, it's actually a kind of an Easter egg in the first Goosebumps movie. Lorraine, Zach's aunt, her last name is Conyers. I don't know if she ever actually says it in the movie, but in the werewolf scene, you can see her parking sign that is bedazzled behind Stein and the kids when they're running away from the werewolf, right before the automotive incident. You can see reserved for Lorraine Conyers, a little nod to where we were filming the movie. But yes, let's start with that. And you know, I've been trying to think of how to approach this, because it's been 11 years plus now for me since this happened, so I know a lot of my memories are very fuzzy. Those are some of the emails I don't still have. I saved most everything, but those are some of the older emails that I don't have. So I was fortunate enough to stumble upon something. This is a video that used to be on my YouTube channel, called My Goosebumps Story Part 1, but I want to share parts of it here because it's a younger me reflecting on this process and sharing a little more insight than even I remember at this moment. So let's roll the tape.
Hi, I'm Avery Jones. I'm a 21-year-old puppeteer from Alabama, and I play Slappy in Sony's Goosebumps movie. A lot of people have asked me how I got to be Slappy, so I decided to make a video telling the whole story, beginning to end. That way, the world will know my Hollywood story. Maybe they'll stop asking that question over and over and over. To say the very least, 2014 was very good to me. In February, I did a workshop in New York City with some of the cast of Sesame Street. About that time that a friend of a friend of a friend sent me this link on Facebook that there was a casting agency in Atlanta looking for a puppeteer. There was very little information, it was just puppeteer wanted, so I submitted what I could and didn't hear anything back. 2 weeks go by and another Facebook friend sends me this casting agency listing, and there's a little more information this time, so I resubmit. The head of the casting agency got in touch with me. Her name was Rose. I drove 2 hours to Atlanta to audition. When I got there, I sat there between 5 other gentlemen who were up for the same gig. The casting lady came out and handed me a dummy that looked a little like this. We were led into a another room where director Rob Letterman was sitting with a camera. I sat behind a table. I read my sides. He thanked me. I was less than 20 minutes away, and I got a phone call from the casting agent. Hey, they liked you. We're gonna come up tomorrow so you can rehearse with a dummy. We're gonna put you up in a hotel and you'll screen test the next morning. Do you know anyone who makes ventriloquist dummies who makes the top of the line? And the first thing that popped into my head was Selberg Studios, which I've always thought is like the Cadillac of ventriloquist dummies. So I gave her the name and told her I'd see her in a few days. I went in and by gosh, they had one of these dummies that I'd recommended, and it was very intimidating to work with this very expensive piece of machinery. I sat in a room with a mirror for probably 2 hours until my hands cramped up practicing with this guy, and I went back to my hotel, which had a very awkward painting of a horse in it. So I went in the next morning to do my screen test. They'd set up a temporary set, they had cameras, lights, they had a sound crew. This was stepping into a movie. Justin, the AD, stepped in and he was giving me some directions on the script. They changed a couple of lines on the sides, and I did a scene. And I was driving back and I realized that I forgot my jacket. So I called the casting lady. I said, hey, I left my jacket on one of the chairs. She said, oh good, I was about to call you back anyway. So I sped up. I had to get back because the first time they'd called me 20 minutes after I left and told me I had a call back. Could this mean I would get the part? So I walked in and she said, you only read one scene, you're supposed to do 2. There was another gentleman there who had also been called back for Slappy, who was in his screen test at the moment. So I waited around a little bit awkwardly sitting in the office until they said, okay, you can come back. I went back, I did my bit, got my jacket, and I left. A week later, I get another call. Hey, come back in for another screen test. I went in and I met with a different guy who was getting called in. This guy hadn't been at that first audition. They were still pulling puppeteers. They hadn't found quite what they wanted yet. So I went in, I did the scenes again. This time we were on 2 different temporary sets. So there were a lot more people, a lot more moving parts. And then I didn't hear anything for a week. I knew they were still auditioning people, so I kind of gave up hope. I woke up at 8 o'clock one morning to my phone ringing, and it was the casting lady, Rose. And Rose said, well, it looks like you got the part. And suddenly I'm awake. She says, we're actually going to send you to Detroit because that's where they're doing all the mechanics on the puppet, so you can be there so they build it to you at Selberg Studios. Kind of funny that that's the company that's putting the dummy together, because that's the place that I turned them on to earlier. Just, you know. So she said, we want you to come to Atlanta tomorrow so you can have a meeting with Rob before you go. We'll put you up in a hotel. You fly out the next morning at 8 o'clock. So I went home, packed a bag. I went back in, had a talk with Rob. He told me the little things I did that he liked, and he wanted to make sure those were in the finished product. The next morning, I flew to Detroit, landed, called Tim Selberg and said, hi, I'm here. When can I come over? He said, I didn't realize you were coming in today. Can we meet tomorrow? So I checked into my hotel and went to the mall, had a good time with my first per diem from a movie. So I get up the next morning, I'm supposed to be at Tim's shop at 12 noon, get in the car, and realize my GPS does not have quite enough battery to get me there. So I'm probably 5 minutes away from Tim's and the GPS dies. I call him up and say, hi, I don't know where I am. So he gives me directions over the phone, and I end up being about 30 minutes late getting there. And everyone who knows me knows I hate being late. I eventually get there, we have an hour-long conversation about the puppet, and he says to me, you know, we could have done this over Skype. Good to know. But he says, since you're here, we'll take you out to dinner. So he and his wife and the other guy that works in his shop, they all took me out. It was a lot of fun. The next morning, I flew back home. I got back on a Saturday. I got a phone call on the next Monday from the second AD on the movie. Dawn was her name. She's very nice to me, even though I asked a ton of stupid questions and acted like a total kid my first couple of weeks there, first couple of months there. She said, basically, here's the thing. You live 2 hours away, so we're gonna move you to Atlanta for the duration of the filming of the movie. And that's what happened. I lived out of hotel rooms for 4 months. There's 3 parts of the story. I'm gonna upload part 2 when I can legally talk about it because I signed a non-disclosure thing. Until then, don't worry, be slappy. Oh, that was so lame. I'm really embarrassed for saying that, actually.
So the place where I went to have this initial audition was called East Side Stage Works, and it's this big office warehouse. We filmed a lot of the actual movie in their back soundstage areas, and even in the wooded areas nearby is where they built the amusement park, or at least portions of it. The green screen stages were in this studio space. but I wasn't aware of any of that at this time. So I went in for my first audition, and there were only a few gentlemen there, and they were all performers who, to my recollection, worked at the World of Coca-Cola with the Coca-Cola Polar Bear, which is a puppet that I absolutely love and adore. I've got some content about that coming out this holiday season. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more on that. So I was intimidated because I was surrounded by people that have been working puppeteers for a substantial amount of time, apparently. I didn't see these people audition. They went in the room and did their audition themselves. So I have no idea what their auditions were like, what their voices were like, anything like that. We've got a couple of questions here for this topic specifically. Katie Doodles asks, what was the most challenging part of the audition, and did the voice you used for the audition end up being the final take for promotional shots and initial recording of the first movie? I believe so. The script was different than what you have seen in the final film now, and I was trying to, as someone who was not really familiar with the books, I believe I had seen one of the television episodes, but I wasn't going to try to do that red-headed Slappy voice, the Cal Dodd voice. Forgive me, wherever you are. I was just trying to make something sound scary and intimidating, and again, I was using one of these guys, so it was a different a take, perhaps, than maybe I would have used had I done a little more research, but I was trying to make something that sounded scary, and by and large, I'm pretty sure it's the same kind of thing that we ended up with in the final movie. And the most challenging part was, for me, just not embarrassing myself, like, this is the first time I'd ever done anything like this, so I didn't know what the protocols were, so I didn't know if you shake hands with people when you go in the room. Sometimes that's a no-no. You got to stay on your side of the table, and they stay. So I was just trying to survive. Again, I was 20 years old, so I was very green to all that, and I still am. I still don't know actually how I should have handled all of these things. Another question, did you take inspiration of the voices described in the books or performance? So I didn't read the books until after I was cast, so I definitely did not take any inspiration from the books, and so that didn't influence me in the slightest, which is probably a good thing. Now, I've mentioned the script several times and how different it is, and there are drafts of the scripts floating out there on the internet. And I cannot find the exact script that I used to audition. I may have it somewhere in the house, but I cannot put my hands on it. So I did a little bit of internet research, and I have found a copy of a script that very closely resembles what I auditioned with. And I would love to do a dramatic reading for you now. Lights, please. A solemn Hannah enters carrying her suitcase. Hannah, help me with the manuscripts. Stein pulls open the double doors to the study. He stops cold as we reveal all of the manuscripts are gone. No. Zach, Hannah, and Dwayne all join him in the doorway. They too are dumbfounded. Stein, frantic now, rushes inside. The manuscripts! Where are they? They were just here! Stein looks around the room, confused. Then we see a red carnation on the floor. Stein picks up the carnation and stares at it. Stein's face expresses his horror. Not him. Just then, ominous laughter is heard, and then a creepy, childlike voice. Not him! Not him! All eyes look up as a shadow falls upon them. Lightning flares across the stained glass windows, and we reveal Slappy, all 2 foot 8 inches of him. Hannibal Lecter meets Pinocchio. Slappy stands on top of the tallest bookcase, holding one of the manuscripts and a gold key. Slappy so happy and free. Stein stares down Slappy as if trying to reason with a naughty child. You're not supposed to be out, Slappy. You're supposed to be on the shelf. Slappy's not going anywhere. Slappy's head turns in a circle mischievously.
Tonight is Slappy's night.
What are you gonna do, Slappy?
What I was born to do. And what is that? You should know. You made me. All your children are coming out to play. No, Slappy! We're going to rule this town and everyone in it. Where are the books, Slappy? Give me back the manuscripts. Tonight is going to be the best story you've ever written. Too bad you won't be alive to read it. But with you gone, we can play forever.
Slappy takes out one of the manuscripts. The binding reads, Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. Slappy puts a lighter to the book.
No, Slappy! Bye, Papa. I promise we'll make you proud.
Slappy tosses the flaming book out the open window. Another lightning flash, thunder crashes, and just like that, Slappy is gone. There's a lot of talking in the third person there. So it didn't feel right to me to do the
Slappy's so happy and he's free
kind of voice, which maybe there'd be some Goosebumps fans out there who would like that, but it didn't feel scary enough to me. I don't believe I had this description, Hannibal Lecter meets Pinocchio. The second film, Ari wanted to lean into that Hannibal Lecter vibe a little more, so we did do some reads that were more of Hannibal Lecter, but I don't believe I had this description until that time. The script changed a lot. We did a very limited, at least my involvement, of doing some readings with the writer on the phone, and they did some rewrites, and they were constantly revamping the script. So you'll see many versions of the story if you look at the novelizations and things like that. But I think, to my knowledge, that is there is one more thing. The other story that I remember, in trying not to embarrass myself in sticking with that theme, one of my screen tests, one of the female vampires who ended up working on the film was also screen testing around the same time. And they'd set up this little makeshift stage with a bookshelf or something for me to audition with this beautiful Selberg ventriloquist dummy. And Javier, who was the cinematographer of the film, who has done cinematography for a lot of films, he did the Twilight films as well, that was his big claim to fame at the time, as he had just wrapped those. He had this gizmo that I still don't totally know what it does, but it measures lighting on set. It looks like this. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was one of those little flip cameras. So every time he got close to the stand-in Slappy, I would smile and do silly stuff, and he would go, "Just stay still, please." So that was another one of my my stories at the time. But I believe that wraps up my my audition process. Crazy amount of information and learning happened so fast for this very green, very new 20-something-year-old Avery. And if I could go back, there are things I would definitely do differently, and questions I would ask and questions I wouldn't ask. But we are here, and that is something. So I thank you for joining me on today's episode of Slappy Speaks. If you have any more questions about the auditions, make sure to leave them in the comments. Maybe I'll address them in a new episode. Maybe I'll just answer them in the comments on this video. You never know. I'm unpredictable and crazy. Tune in next week. Maybe. Hopefully next week. If not, I'll see you the week after that for the next episode of Slappy Speaks.